I guess could you imagine like one of the main heroes, a Spider-Man or a Batman or Superman, like being permanently dead? Like, does that seem like realistic or like even feasible to you?
Uh, no, temporarily dead. I mean, okay, so like, there's a really good example, right? Like in Final Crisis, the villain Darkseid hit Batman with the Omega Sanction. Now, if it hit anybody else, they would be dead. If it hit like any regular human, they would be dead and gone. Batman gets time displaced because he's just too popular to kill. Right, and but having said that, and I got to stand up for, I mean, I'm a comic book YouTuber, I got to stand up for comic books. I think that's also what kind of creates a really interesting challenge with comic books, because I think if we're talking about, Batman as such a long running character, it would be like if Dragon Ball has just been written in that universe all this time, right? And they're doing spin-offs, right? So now it's like Gohan's series and Piccolo's series and
Please God.
Bulma's series and all that kind of stuff. I mean, yeah, some of that would be dope. Dude, I would love to
I
see
think
like a
I
solo
wish
series on Gohan. Yeah,
Actually, I
that would
wish
be
that we
amazing.
could do
But
that. Like, I think,
yeah,
like Dragon Ball now is like too much. Like, like I guess like regular comics or not regular. I shouldn't say regular comics. Like one, like I have I have a lot of respect for comics. Like I wish I can get into them right now, but like I'm just super focused like on what I'm doing. But like, comics are amazing for a reason. Like there's a reason we're still talking about them, and definitely love to pick your brain to more. But like I think like Dragon Ball like is like an example of like too popular to kill, right?
yeah,
Like,
yeah. I mean, that's very true. I mean, like, I mean, Goku dies, but we all kind of know that when Goku dies, he just gets a halo. He goes to heaven. He hangs out there for a little while until they need him again, and then they gather the Dragon Balls and wish him back, or something along those lines. I think as far as I'm aware, the only time Goku died and stayed dead permanently was like in the history of Trunks.
yeah,
You know,
yep, yep,
yeah,
yep, yep.
that's the only time he was just like done and gone forever. But to the point about comic books, right? I mean, imagine that Dragon Ball is being written all this time, right? That it's not just Akira Toriyama, right? Despite the fact that he passed away, right? Saying that he hadn't, and he's just been writing it all this time. But then, like, somebody else is writing the Gohan series, and somebody else is writing the Piccolo series, and then those writers decide to shift out, right? So Akira Toriyama decides to retire, somebody else comes on, they take over the Dragon Ball series, and it's their interpretation of it, which I think is actually happening right now. With Akira Toriyama passing away, I think somebody else is taking over and writing the Dragon Ball series, kind of continue, keeping it on. But it's always someone's perspective of it. Except now, it's not really the way that it used to be. I think in more recent years, the longest anyone's been on a title, I think, was when Kelly Thompson was writing the Captain Marvel series, and went on for something like 70 some odd issues, I think. I'm not going to swear to that. I don't remember the exact issue number, but it was for a pretty chunky period of time. You do have writers that stay on the titles, for a pretty lengthy period, but you don't really have a point where anybody's writing a comic for like 100 something issues. So, you get it for a pretty short period of time. But the fact is, right, that it's always rotating. It's always someone's interpretation, and I think that's where the interesting challenge comes into play, because if Tom King finishes writing Batman, and let's say that Scott Snyder, who did the whole Nifty Two, comes on and doesn't decide to do it again. Say somebody else comes on, because I think after Tom King it was James Tynion, and then after James Tynion, I don't remember who wrote it after James Tynion, but Matt Fraction's writing it right now. Right? Matt Fraction's job is to sit down and say, okay, what has been done with Batman, and how can I either create something new or take what's been done with Batman and turn it into something different that people haven't necessarily seen before. I think there's something kind of cool about that.